When you add integers, integers are positive and negative whole numbers. Basically, think of this as 3 bad, 3 good, 2 bad. 3 good, 2 bad. Who's going to win? Who has more? The good. Because basically these cancel out, leaving you 1 good. In your head, just think of it, you have positives and negatives, you have good and bad. What's going to happen? What's left? On number 2. Who has more? The good or the bad? The bad guys have more. There's 4 bad, 3 good. Who's going to win? The bad guys, because these cancel. You have a negative 1 left. This one. Who's going to win? Pretty obvious. Is there going to be any battle? No. They're just like, chilling here. 4 bad, 2 more bad. They're just nothing happening. Just six bad people are just chilling. And the last one, who's going to win? The good guys are. Because if you look at this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bad, but boom, 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 boom. How many good? 7. And you could tell right there, what's left? 2. Now, are drawing these plus or minuses smart to do all the time when you do it? No, especially if you had 50. You got to learn to do it without them. But they're a tool to visualize, a tool to think about what's happening. Now, this can be pretty easy. But with subtraction, that's where it gets screwy and weird. It messes people up. So, when you subtract, you need to think of this as 5. A minus means you add. Change minus to add. And what's the opposite of negative 2? Isn't the opposite of negative 2 positive 2? You change the minus to an add, and then the opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. So that then is real easy. What's 5 plus 2? You should know that in 7. The negatives disappeared. Okay? How about this one? Well, that's negative 1, and we change that minus to a plus, and that 3 is a what? Okay, they change that to a plus. That's a positive 3, so we're going to change it to a negative 3. So looking at that, we have that minus becomes a plus, and that 3 becomes a negative 3. So basically that's saying negative 1 plus negative 3. So negative 1 and negative 3, is there conflict? No. You just have 4 negatives just chilling. 4 negatives. This one. Well, that's going to be negative 4 plus what? What's the opposite of negative 3? Positive 3. Again, the minus becomes a plus. You change whatever that is. Who's going to win? Don't the bad guys win? Because how many more do they have? 1. And the last one, negative 5 plus what? That's negative 5 plus 2 or negative 2? Because you change basically that to a plus, and then that positive 2 becomes a negative 2. That's negative 5 and negative 2. So negative 5, negative 2. Looks like I got 7 negatives. Okay, so you have adding, you have subtracting. Actually put positive. And number 3? Ooh, thank you. This one should be -1. Good. Thank you. Because that's a -1. Good observation. Okay, so adding, subtracting, and then you have multiplying. Yes? Between 2 and 3.
Yeah, because like we're changing it to an adding sign, and then that one
You,
just because it's in parentheses, and you're leaving that one alone.
this one is saying -1 and -3. -1 and -3. Okay? This one's saying -1, but then this minus here means it's saying change the sign. Okay? This is -1. You make that into a plus. That +3 becomes a -3. Here, this becomes a plus, so that -3 becomes a +3. Basically, you make it a plus and you change the sign. We'll talk about it more. I will repeat it later. Here, on multiplying integers, completely different story. Basically, what's 3 times 7? The answer is 21, but it's 21 negative or 21 positive. Which one is it?
Negative.
If one of these is a negative, the answer is negative. Multiplying is pretty easy. Here, the answer is 20, but is it negative or positive 20? It's positive 20 because if they're both negative, the answer is positive. Or here, the answer is 24, but negative or positive?
Negative.
Negative. Because remember, if one of these two numbers is negative, when you multiply, the answer is negative. So again, when multiplying, if one of them is negative, the answer is negative. If they're both negative, the answer is positive. If they're both positive, is that obvious? The answer is positive. Now, again, these are completely different rules. These up here, you have to deal with these plus or minus or good guy, bad guy. These are just simple rules.